Last one is from Vitaly Ferguson. I have 3 showings of Endgame already purchased, and I can't wait. However,
Nice.
like you always say, any movie can suck. I was wondering what you would say are the biggest potential problems or things about Avengers Endgame that could leave us all upset or disappointed in the movie. Fingers crossed that it doesn't come to that, but what are some of the things you're worried about?
All right, look, here is the real look. We are all excited about Avengers Endgame. You guys saw the jacket I was wearing yesterday. I'm a big fan of the MCU. I'm a big fan of comic book movies in general. I think at the end of the day, there is ample reason to be enthusiastic. I think there is ample reason to be excited. And I think there is ample reason and evidence to be optimistic about how good this film will be. But every single movie, as you said in the email, every single movie can suck. There is the possibility of any movie. How many times have we gone into movies, my fellow brothers and sisters in film fandom, that we fully expected to be awesome and to blow our socks off and all this types of good stuff, only to get in there and walk out with our heads held low, a broken heart, and sadness in our souls. It's happened. It happens sometimes at the least expected time. I say it time and time again, the greatest filmmaker of all time, Steven Spielberg, even he's had a bad day at the office. And let's not forget, as great as the Russo brothers have been with the MCU, and they've been great, these are also the guys who directed You, Me, and Dupree, as was pointed out so adequately on this show the other day by one of our viewers. So let's not forget that. So look, what am I expecting, Rob? Going in to Avengers Endgame, I'm expecting it to be great. I'm expecting a great time. I would put my money on it being a great movie. I think we're all going to have a good time. However, that notwithstanding, I think there are a couple of things to be concerned about and to keep our eyes on, as there would be with any film. And I want to propose 4 things, Robert.
Oh my God.
That if we walk out of Endgame disappointed, and if we walk out of Endgame thinking that the movie sucks, it's going to be because one of 4 things.
Are you about to harsh my mellow?
No, I think this is going to be good, but let's be realistic. Everything has a chance to be bad, and I'm just saying, if this movie ends up being bad, I think it will be due and attributable to one of these 4 things. And here's what I think those things are. If we walk out of Endgame disappointed, it's going to be because of one of these things. Either number 1, it abandons their appeal to non-comic book fans and goes too geeky. One of the great things about the MCU that they have done up until this point is they have taken the fantastical and placed it firmly within the mundane. And I've talked about that for years. It's taken some great concept of comic books and whatever, but then brought them into movies and packages to which average moviegoers, who represent 98% of the movie-going audience, average moviegoers who aren't souped up on comic book lore and stuff like that, and made it feel somewhat relatable. Because there are some concepts and things like that in comic books that would just make the average film goer go, okay, now you're just too nerdy for me. You know what I mean? And the MCU has always done such a great job of taking some of those concepts, the right concepts of those from comic books, bringing it into their more practical movies, and doing it in such a way that appealed to us, the comic book fans, but also to the non-comic book fans to come in and enjoy their movies. I believe there is a risk, a little bit of a temptation here, that maybe the Russo brothers and maybe Feige goes, F it, we can do whatever we want, and then bring in too many of those higher plane geeky concepts into it in such a way that will alienate and disassociate with the average film goer. And that's one of the things. Again, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm not at all. I'm just saying if we walk out of Endgame disappointed, that might be one of the causes. The second thing I'd be a little bit wary of is the idea of, if we walk out of Endgame disappointed, it might be because they come up with either a cop-out ending or a convoluted ending. Sticking the landing on this movie is vitally important, because the big question we all have going into it is, how the hell do you undo the decimation? How the hell do you undo the snapping? How do you undo the events of the end of Avengers Infinity War in such a way that is satisfying, makes logical sense, and sets up the MCU to continue on after Endgame? How the hell is Peter Parker going on a school vacation when he's dusted, essentially? And if Avengers Endgame gives us some kind of crappy cop-out ending that sets it up. And we all walk out there going, that was what this was all building up. That's how they fix this. And I don't know what that would mean. I don't know what that would look like. But there is a little bit of a worry that we should have going into it's going to have it was all a dream kind of ending that we've seen other type of movies drop the ball with. Movies and television shows have dropped the ball with sticking that landing. If they come out with a cop-out ending or some kind of really convoluted ending that just does not work for the audience, that could lead people into walking out of the theater being a little, let's just say, disappointed at that point. All right. The third thing I'd want to keep my eye on is if they try to cram too much into this movie. Because look, as much as I love Infinity War, one of my criticisms was Infinity War was they a little bit overstuffed that movie. Now, they were able to do it right to its maximum limit. They did.
You are wrong.
No, I'm absolutely right on that. But they pushed in as much, I think, as they possibly could. And if they try to put in one iota more, I think the whole thing would have exploded under its own weight. But the Russos did a really great job of, even though they overpacked it a little bit, they still managed it and were able to deliver. And that was great. But it came dangerously close to being way overstuffed. It became dangerously close, but they managed it and they succeeded. My fear would be that they go, oh, well, we can just stuff in even tons more stuff in here, which will leave us all pretty unsatisfied, I think. I think that becomes one of the issues. But here's one of the other things that I'd be worried about. And again, let me reemphasize, I'm not saying any of these are going to happen. I'm just saying if we walked out of Endgame unsatisfied, I think it'll be because of one of these things. And my fourth thing that I'd be really most worried about is they pull a Transformers animated movie on us. And what do I mean by that? But this. One of the greatest disservices ever done in the history of movies to a fan base is what that Transformers animated film, well, when did it come out? 88, 89? A long time ago. Maybe it was 84. I can't even remember now.
Yeah, I think it was 84. 84, John.
One of the greatest disservices ever in the history to fan bases is when Hasbro, who provides half of my household income, let me just be upfront about that. Hasbro provides half of my household income. But Hasbro said, hey, kids, come on down and watch it. You love Transformers? Come see a Transformers movie. Oh, you love all these Transformers that you supported our company with by buying the toys over the year? We're going to kill them all. In 7 minutes, we're killing them all, kids. All these toys you bought for us, all these toys you've played with for our benefit, all these toys you've grown to love and you've invested in, all kind of stuff, they're all dead. We're killing them all in like 10 minutes. Now you got to buy Ultra Magnus. Who the fuck is Ultra Magnus? Doesn't matter. Go buy him. Now you're going to have Hot Rod. Hot Rod, yeah, he's Rodimus Prime. You're going to love him. He sucks. Doesn't matter. Buy him anyway, kid. And they crapped all over the fans and they crapped all over the audience. Here's what my one little fear would be. In setting up what comes up in the MCU next, and with Kevin Feige insisting that almost everything we've seen in the Endgame footage and Endgame trailers has been from like the first 20, 30 minutes of the movie, my one little fear that I want to keep an eye open for is that the first 20, 30 minutes is all the Avengers we have become known and invested in over 10 years, 20 plus movies, is they kill Iron Man, they kill Captain America, they kill Thor, they do all that in the first act of the film. And look, kids, here's all the new heroes. And they're all replaced with the new heroes who come in. And the rest of the movie, we're just sitting there going, what the F just happened? I came here to watch Captain America and Iron Man and Thor and a bunch of the other auxiliary MCU heroes solve their final problem, maybe die at the end. But what's going on? Now this movie's about something completely, what the F is going on? And I'm just a little bit worried. Again, I'm not saying this is what they're going to do. I don't even believe this is what they're going to do. But I will admit I'm going with a little bit of apprehension and a little bit of fear that they're going to use this culmination movie to just sweep everybody else away and just usher in a whole bunch of new characters that we haven't become invested in, and they take over the rest of the movie. I'm a little bit nervous about that. Maybe I should be, maybe I shouldn't be. So again, Rob, let me reemphasize before I ask you for your opinions on this. I am not saying any of that's going to happen. I firmly believe this movie is going to be great. I just think if we can look into the future and we see a bunch of audiences coming out of Endgame disappointed, I'm just thinking one of those four things might be the culprit. So let me put it to you, Rob. We look into our crystal ball right now. We look into the future a week and a half, and we see audiences inexplicably coming out of Endgame disappointed, their heads held low, all that kind of stuff. If that happens, what would you fear or suspect could be the root of that was in the movie that had them walking out disappointed? What do you think are the things we should maybe a little bit be concerned about going into this movie?
I think the only reason people are going to come out of Endgame with their heads hung low and looking at the ground with disappointed looks on their faces is because it's over. I think
that's a cop out.
I think that they're going to have so much fun in this movie.
I want to hear. Stop the cop out. Stop the fan service. I want you to put online right now. If people are disappointed in this movie, what do you think could be the culprit of it?
Okay. Ultimately, there's a lot of buildup here.
Yeah.
You know, the buildup is over 11 years. And
it's getting there,
the expectations, like, I don't think the last time I had this kind of expectation for a film, I was crushed. And that was Return of the Jedi, to be honest. I expected to see something that was going to be the biggest, most life-changing, epic. I thought I was going to get Return of the King. That's what I thought. And so I know what it's like to be set up and have my expectations not met. But I think that in this case, there's so many things that they're asking us to expect to see in this film. There's so many questions and there's so much stuff that we're hoping to see. I mean, we want to see half the population of the universe come back. We want to see what happens to Thanos. We want to see what happens to all the characters. We want to know who dies. We want to know this. We want to know that. I don't think that there's possibly any way that every single thing that every viewer wants to have happen or hopes is addressed in this movie is going to happen. Because there's just so many. I don't think I can remember a film in my life that I had so many questions about going in, that I expected so much from the story. You got to give me answers to these 28 things, you know, and I need to see all this stuff, beginning with are they going into the quantum realm? Is there time travel involved? All the way back to, are we going to see somebody say Avengers Assemble? Are we going to see Thanos defeated? Are we going to see a second villain? Are we going to see Spider-Man come back from the dead? Are we going to wonder, are they going to deal with the fact that are the people, when they get undusted, are they going to know they were dusted? Like, there's so many. What happens to the rest of the world? What happens to the rest of the universe? What happened to Xandar? Where's the Nova Corps? Why wasn't Captain Marvel on Earth before this? I mean, there's so many questions in this movie. And if two of my favorite questions are unanswered, I might walk away going, oh man, I mean, that sucked. Yeah. And I don't think that I'm going to do that, but I can't remember a movie that has set itself up the way this has. And by the way, by their own design. Yeah. This is not the fans putting it on. This is the Marvel. These are the filmmakers going, here's all the questions that we have to answer. They did it to themselves. And they put this expectation in me and in all the viewers. And if they don't live up to it, shame on them. Shame.
But now I do want to point out, you guffawed a little bit when I said one of the potential worries is maybe them having the temptation to overstuff the movie. But then you just basically said exactly what I said in a different thing. There are so many questions, and there would, I think, be a temptation for them to say, F it, let's just cram it all in. Let's just answer them all, even though we can't possibly do every single one of them in any sort of satisfying way. Let's just overdo it. And that's I think that goes right to what you were saying there, Rob. That's kind of the heart of my fear of that a little bit, was that they feel the need to maybe do too much in this movie. You know what I'm saying? Instead of getting to the really core important parts and just really soaking in the important stuff. But I think you're right. I think you make a really good observation when you mention that if two of the big questions I have don't get answered, I'm going to go, oh, that sucks. And we do that to ourselves as fans, right? We set ourselves up for that in many ways. So,
but I will say what they do have going for them, and it's something that isn't really addressed, is that they've had a lot of time. Remember, they shot these two movies concurrently. They shot Infinity War and Endgame concurrently. And yes, they have done reshoots, as is to be expected on movies of this size.
Of all of them, yeah.
And they've really had time to adjust. Yeah. And I think of the reason that I am so excited about this movie is because, one, we heard early test screenings went very, very well. And two, They found out they've had time to really put the screws down and really hone this movie and craft it into something. I think we're going to get the best version of Endgame we could possibly get. And this is Kevin Feige's big moment for me. You know, what is past is prologue, Kevin. As much as I've said you're my Lord and Savior of the comic book movie going experience, and you have been, this is the moment. This is the moment where the Red Sea must be parted. This is the moment when all of your believers need to be able to look skyward and hear the chimes at midnight and hear the sunlight shining down and illuminate all of our souls with the greatness that you have the power to bring us. And if you don't, shame on you, sir.
All right, guys.
I
well,
trust in Feige, though, John.
Oh, so do I. Look, I think the bottom line here is I think we are all got really high expectations for a reason. They have crafted this thing so well. They have managed these properties so well. They have given great drama, yet the right amount of fan service in the best possible way mixed in there along the way. They always seem to have a target of pleasing the audience along the way. I think we're in for something special.
Okay.
But I do want to know go ahead.
I've got one for you.
What's that?
I just came up with this. Over or under 50% that Endgame is a more satisfying conclusion to the MCU than Game of Thrones is to that series.
Oh.
I know, right? Just came up with this one.
Look, I clearly prefer the MCU over Game of Thrones.
But just the ending.
Yeah.
Just the ending. Who will wrap it up better?
Because Game of Thrones has done the dramatic better than I think than maybe the MCU has. And that tends to lend itself to a more satisfying ending. I'll actually go Game of Thrones.
Wow.
But just because you're saying, I'm not necessarily which will be better, but if you're asking me what's going to be the more satisfying ending, I think that because, I mean, ultimately, really, at the end of the day, guys, this isn't the end of the MCU, and we know that. At the end of the day, this is just another MCU movie, yet not. So I'll take over on that. Ashley, what about you? What over, under, which do you think takes the nod? What do you think is going to have the more satisfying ending, the Game of Thrones one or the MCU?
I would think Game of Thrones for exactly what you said. It was such a great point. I'm going Game of Thrones. I got to do it. I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm so curious, Rob. What do you think?
You know what? I'm going to have to go because I've believed in Feige. I've got to say, I really believe that Endgame is going to deliver the goods. Now,
I do too.
That I just think I know, and I even asked this question. So now I'm thinking, why did I even ask this stupid question? It has nothing. We're not even at a bar drinking and geeking out for some reason. It's like, what do you think is going to have a more satisfying? Anyway, I apologize for the question, but I do think Endgame is going to provide a more satisfying, holistically, a more satisfying ending to the 22 films because both have been running for the same amount of time. You know, they've both been going on for a decade.
But don't forget Game of Thrones. While this is going to be the 22nd film in the MCU, we're going to be 70 plus episodes.
I know
of Game of Thrones, right? So it's, I mean, look, it's a win-win situation. I think at the end of the game, we all win. We're going to get a great ending to Game of Thrones. We're going to get a great ending to this. And anyway, guys, I want to know what you guys think. Now, be honest. Put the hyper fandom hats aside for a second. I want some gut check honesty here from you guys, even those of us who are most excited about Endgame. If there was anything to be worried about, what do you think that element would be? What do you think would be the thing to worry about going into Avengers Endgame? We can talk all day about all the reasons we think it's going to be awesome, and we do, but gut check time. If there was one thing you had to be honestly say, this would be the one thing I'd be a little bit worried about. I want to know what you think about that. Jump into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts.